All right. Well, firstly, why am I not in Knicks gear? Well, because earlier today it was announced there might be a renaming of Veterans Day, and to me, it'll always be Veterans Day and Memorial Day. So I rep the New York Yankees, United States red, white, and blue Yankees logo here because it's the only one that I really have from the Yanks. So why not? Although I should be wearing Brunson today because Lou Terminello, just like the Knicks, we pushed this envelope to Friday to Terminello's take for the Knicks to finally seal the deal here.
We did, Alex, and thank you for always having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, the Knicks made this much tougher than I thought it would ever be. I didn't think that the Pistons would give the Knicks this much of a problem. They did. Kudos to them. They were shorthanded and they still played tough. They had a great year. I mean, they had made the playoffs in 6 years and they went from 14 wins to 44. Their roster still needs some tinkering. But the one thing that you got out of last night, and we've known this since last year, Jalen Brunson offensively is a superstar. There's no doubt
cross
about it.
Up at every angle has been so fun to watch. The way he crossed him up and then spots it for the three. I mean, I was telling a friend of mine, you can't teach that. Isn't that instinct right there?
Well, I mean, the guy works hard. Well, we've said this a million times. I don't think when the Dallas Mavericks let him go to free agency, he thought he was going to end up being this great. And right. He's great offensively. He's a great player.
So are you saying the Knicks should thank Nico Harrison for Jalen Brunson as well?
Well, I think it was probably more of an organizational thing because let's face it, the Mavericks were coached by one of the greatest point guards in NBA history. And if he saw that Brunson was going to rise to this level, I assume he would have stepped in and say, hey, we got to sign this guy. But that's past news. The Knicks have him. He's their difference maker. They would have lost if he wasn't there. Bridges finally had a good game in the clutch situation. That tip was absolutely
monumental.
Yeah, no doubt. And really, everybody played pretty well last night except Karl-Anthony Towns. And Karl-Anthony Towns still had 14 rebounds. And the Knicks did out-rebound them in the last 2 games. But now the real test comes. Playtime is over. And the Knicks had trouble in playtime.
Now, let me ask you this. Am I right to say I don't remember them advancing past the conference semis the last 3 times? I mean,
that is correct.
They've won the first round, and that was a big hump they got over a couple of years ago. But now we're waiting for more, aren't we?
Correct. And this is the hump they have to get over. If by some chance they could pull the victory in the series against the Celtics, I think I'm not a betting guy, but I heard they're a huge underdog in Vegas and on the various sports betting sites. Going back to my time-tested formula, can they beat them 4 out of 7? I don't know. I mean, it would be really hard for the Knicks to beat them 4 out of 7. I think winning last night was such a key because it got the Knicks 3 days off. If it went to Game 7, even if the Knicks had won Game 7 at the Garden on Saturday night, they would only had 1 day off. So all the bumps and bruises that they got in this incredibly physical series against the Pistons, the 3 days off will help them. The best chance for the Knicks to win a game on the road is Game 1. It's Monday night.
Set the tone. Look, if they could split Boston, I'll be happy. Just get back to New York 1-1. That would be good. But, Detroit's fascinating, right? Kate Cunningham, you can't talk enough about the guy. I mean, he is the future of Detroit. I think he can lead this team to some really big rounds here in the next few years.
I agree. I totally agree. And he was a number 1 overall pick. He missed a full year with an injury. The kid is an excellent player. Detroit did a nice job. I mean, they went from 14 wins to 44. They hadn't made the playoffs in 6 straight years. I don't think they won a home game in 17 years during the playoffs. And they had opportunities to win these.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, that was around the last time that they won the championship, isn't it?
That is, they won a championship in 2004 when Larry Brown was the coach.
Chauncey Billups, Ben Wallace. Oh my God, the legends on that team too. But
Absolutely. And then they got to the finals the next year and they lost to the Spurs. So interesting series coming up for the Knicks. It's going to be hard for the Knicks.
Now, I mean, obviously the Celtics pretty much did what they had to do against Orlando. Are there any health concerns that you could see from this series? Is Jason okay?
We don't know about Jaylen Brown's knee, about Holiday's injury. He's a key defensive guy for them. I would assume they're healthy. But let me tell you one thing about these NBA players in general. All the guys who were banged up during the course of the year, and, you watch like a guy like Kawhi Leonard, who basically went at half speed during the course of the year. In this great playoff series against the Denver Nuggets, the guy's back at the top of his game. He's so good offensively and defensively. And all those injuries, which I assume he still has, are tucked away in the back of his mind because the guy's playing hard, which, again, I know I hate, as somebody who was in the NBA for 28 years, I hate to say this about my league. I would never pay for a regular season NBA game ticket. Never. Because it's a total different game. The player's mindset is different. It's more so than any sport. So the Western Conference playoffs have been better than the East. Actually, the Knicks gave us the best series, really, by, I don't want to say playing down to Detroit's level, but having more problems than I thought they would have with Detroit. The other series, you knew those teams, they got off to big leads.
I mean, Cleveland, Oklahoma City, they blew out their opponents.
They blew out their opponents. So I think in this next round, the series will be more competitive. The Knicks have a chance.
But I want to get to the Cleveland series because you always praise Spoelstra. It almost looked like that final game that didn't show up. Is there a coaching thing there? Is his time's not wearing out there, is it?
No, I would doubt it. I mean, if he decides to leave, very much like, say, in other sports, Andy Reid leaving the Eagles after 14 years, just to use that as a comparison.
And I only say that because he had to weather the Jimmy Butler storm, which was really early on, and I don't know if they ever recovered from that fully.
Well, and the roster's not as good, especially without Jimmy Butler. But Alex, they were 10th in the league. They were 10th in the East. They won 37 games. Yeah, they weren't really a playoff team. They should have even been there. So again, for everybody who loves to play in tournaments, I don't know.
Look, if they were going to expand it, I'd rather that than try another wild card round, which you would not be able to do in either NHL or NBA. I've come to that decision because these two sports are not built for a wild card round. Okay, the way the playoffs are now, it's 4 rounds too long anyway. But that's
correct. It is. So, but if Spoelstra leaves, he'll be picked up in no time. I even heard, now I don't want to jump to another sport. I heard that, like John Cooper might be leaving Tampa Bay. It's not anything that he's done, but sometimes you hear these stories that, okay, it's just time to go somewhere else.
Right.
So who knows?
And you were telling me up until the Rangers named Mike Sullivan, there's about 8 coaching vacancies, now 7. Am I right?
Right. There was 8. And we knew, as we talked on Monday morning at 9:15, as soon as it became official that Sullivan was gone, we knew the Rangers. I said to you, in the next 72 hours, he's going to be the coach. Well, I was off by about 8 hours. So
now I'm hearing he might bring with him David Quinn and Tortorella on the bench. Now that would be interesting to have 2 former guys with the new coach.
I just would be surprised if Tortorella would take a job as an assistant, but maybe he will, because I'm not sure anybody will hire him as a head coach.
I want to go back to that for a second. Let's go back to NBA to wrap that up because, okay, we all kind of laughed at Nico Harrison for trading Doncic, but they pretty much collapsed. I don't know how it happened. I mean, you have LeBron and Doncic, and they didn't even get out of the first round against the Wolves. What was the recipe there for Minnesota?
I have to say that I was semi-wrong. I thought Minnesota would not be a playoff power, or really be a playoff factor. Power is the wrong word. I thought the Lakers would win this series, and Minnesota was better coached. and they got good performances from Anthony Edwards. Randall played well. DiVincenzo played well. They got a nice team. I have a feeling that they might win this next round. Now, getting back to the Lakers, I think it's just a situation where Luka and LeBron. It's hard to believe when you have two of the top players in the league. You can only win one playoff game in the first round. I just have a feeling that they didn't have enough time to mesh, chemistry, things of that nature. I have no idea how much longer LeBron's going to want to play. He's still playing at a very high level. Is he going to play another 2 years, another 1 year? But I think a full training camp with Luka, JJ Redick did a good job as coach. He had never coached anywhere, right. not even as assistant. So I'm not going to breathe the Lakers. I would have the kudos to the T-Wolves. So
now, how about this? Maybe the NBA wants a Cat versus Ant rematch. NBA final. That would be kind of interesting. I don't think it'll happen, but
if the NBA wants that, Cat has to be playing much better in the next 2 rounds to get to the finals.
Well, and I know you want to go off about the game, and it's kind of old news now, but last week's Sunday call with the final, that final 3, it could have changed the whole series, though.
Of course it could have. Okay, Detroit would have probably hit those free throws and won the game, and it was a travesty that they blew that call. So much so, the NBA didn't even wait to their 2-minute report that they usually put out the next day. They said it basically an hour after the game. Hey, we blew that call. Now, Alex, my friend, if that was at Madison Square Garden and Brunson was going up for a shot like that and got hit in a similar way, or Bridges, or Karl Anthony Towns, do you think the officials would have swallowed their whistle? I don't think
that charging call was very interesting last night against Detroit. I will say that. I mean, or that call where Brunson might have been called for charging on that. Instead, it went the other way. That was a very interesting call.
You mean the one that was 112 to 105, and he drove?
Yeah.
I actually thought when Detroit challenged, that they were going to win the challenge. It was close, but I thought they were going to win the challenge because it looked like Brunson initiated the contact, but they didn't. So we move on. And,
by the way, you mentioned the price of tickets. You had the very good fortune, I should remind listeners, to be at the NBA Finals for couple of years in a row there. And I know that was a very special time, loss or not. It was just special to be there, and you were there without having to pay, right? I mean, that
was the good thing. Yeah, I didn't have to pay. But I saw about 1,700 NBA games live, and I probably paid for 3 of them. So.
By the way, speaking of that, the Bucks end of the season. The Bucks end of season was quite fascinating because now, for some reason, I thought Giannis was a free agent. I don't know why I thought that, but I feel like there's no question surrounding him in the offseason, right? I don't know why, but there are.
There are, and these are the reasons. He has 2 years left on his deal at $54.1 million. Nice salary, huh, Alex? And he has 2 years left on his deal. The thing is, the Bucks their roster is not as good as it was. And obviously with Damian Lillard blowing out his Achilles, he's probably going to miss the entire 25-26 season. They don't have any draft picks. I think they might have 1 in the next 6 years or something like that. So they might dangle Giannis out there. I mean, obviously, there's always been a little smoke that the Brooklyn Nets are interested in, and the Brooklyn Nets have this slew of picks, first and second round picks, through 29-30 or 30-31. And this is what I think Sean Marks is waiting for to see if he can.
So we could be looking at in the next, trade deadline, a Doncic type of situation where they don't want to pay Giannis, so they just trade him at this point.
Well, they'll usually, and they're going to try to get back draft capital. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's any players specifically on the Nets that they want. They might have to do accept some players for cap reasons. But the Nets aren't going to be the only team after Giannis if Giannis is put out there by Milwaukee. If the Knicks fail this round, which I would say if it goes according to.
If they have Towns, Jalen, Giannis. That
they will have to trade. They would have to trade one of those guys.
No, that's
true. It won't be Brunson, but
Bridges.
But I'm sure Durant is going to be on the Knicks' radar if they fail in this round, and so the NBA offseason is going to be interesting.
I want to float this idea because Thibodeau's not been able to get the Knicks into the conference semis even. I almost felt like he was almost on the hot seat. A lot of people were questioning his moves in this round. Is his seat hot in this round or not really?
Well, I think that the seat got a little cooler because they beat Detroit. Now, if they had beat Detroit, if they had lost to Detroit, a team that they were better than, yeah, I think he would have been under immense pressure. I don't know if Dolan and the Knicks brass, Leon Rose, would have fired him, but he would start next season with a very, very short leash.
And New York's not going to stand for another round, second round elimination either. So there's a lot of pressure on this team going into this round. They've been there now the fourth straight year. You got to make the fourth year count. So
no, you can't. You can't just stop here. But they got a tough road to hoe, man. I can't see them winning 4 out of 7 against the Celtics.
Well, and on the other side, you also saw that defending champion continue on, the Panthers. And I don't know. I felt like the Panthers are not the Panthers of last year. I feel like they're not as crisp.
Alex, a very good word you use, crisp. I did not think that they were going to be this crisp against a team like Tampa Bay. Yes, we knew one of these great teams was going to be eliminated in the first round because the way the NFL has their playoff structure set up. I don't like the playoff structure, but anyway, I thought Tampa Bay was going to get to the finals, really have a great chance to get to the finals. And Florida, again, what champions do. When the going gets tough, they got going. And if you said to me this is going to be a 5-game series, I would have lost that bet.
And Bobrovsky's still Bobrovsky. I mean, the guy is.
Yes. Absolutely.
And this one, even Binnington, I think the USA versus Canada game itself helped Binnington find his groove because after that, the Blues went crazy, okay? And he's a big reason why.
No doubt. You're 100% correct.
And I'm mentioning goaltenders because we got to give a lot of credit to Markstrom. The guy in that was double over. I mean, wow. He kept the Devils alive that game.
No question about it. In the double overtime, the Devils were running on fumes. They had guys who probably shouldn't have been on the ice. And Markstrom stood on their head. I mean, even if the Devils had won that game in overtime, I don't think they were going to win the series. But again, this is the Devils have to. Everybody knows now the Devils have to improve the back end of the bottom six, the two lines. But again, they were 0-15 on the power play. Here's a team that was third in the league in the power play. They actually went up percentage-wise after Jack Hughes got hurt. But again, they didn't have Jack Hughes in the playoffs. They didn't. After first game, they didn't have Luke Hughes, who anchors the power play. Then they lost Brendan Dillon. They lost Kovacevic, another one of the defensemen. So I'm giving the Devils a pass, but the pass comes to an end. Next year, they gotta really show that they're more than just a middle of the road Stanley Cup playoff team. They gotta advance next year.
All right, I think about Markstrom, and I think about the pressures that alone, goaltending, there's a pressure to it because, like, the Jets finding the next Namath and the Giants finding the next LT and this, that, and the other. No one talks about how they're always hoping that next Brodeur shows up, right?
Well, you're correct. And, you mentioned a couple of different sports. The toughest positions in sports right now, the pressure, in my opinion, this is my opinion, NFL quarterback, we know the pressure on them. Closers in baseball, we know the pressure on them. And goaltending in hockey. I mean, those three positions in the four major sports, the mental and physical toll it takes on you is something, Alex, that you can't even measure it. It's so intense.
Yeah, no, it's a lot, and especially, and this is why Igor is so valuable, because he was on his head to keep that team alive in the finals in the conference finals last year. I mean, without him, they would have been eliminated in 5 or 6 games, in 4 or 5 games.
No doubt about it. But special teams are so important. You look at Edmonton. Mm-hmm. They lost those first 2 games to the Kings. They were 0-5 on the power play, and then the last 4 games that they won, they were 5 for 8 on the power play. You want to win 5-on-5, but special teams makes a difference many times in winning and losing these games. And Edmonton marches on.
All right, I'll get to the winless season that the Knicks had against the Celtics and Cavs. So that's a big storyline heading into this. But I want to finish with the Oilers and in this NHL talk. Obviously, I have the Capitals winning it all, because I feel like you get the ring, you get the record, you want to get the ring, right? I think they're on that path. But how cool would it be in the year when the Rangers aren't even in the playoffs, just to see, in my view, I'd personally love to see Edmonton versus Toronto, McDavid versus Matthews. That's what we all should want, right? I mean, that would be so fun.
Well, that would be a very interesting series, and obviously, you might as well lock down Canada, because they'll be so into it. Because finally, they'll have a Canadian city that'll break this long drought of not winning.
32 calendar years, 33 seasons.
Yeah. And I was worried about Toronto last night. Not that, and I don't root for them. Don't get me wrong. I said to myself, if they don't win that game last night, and they got to come home for Game 7, I mean, the pressure would have been, I can't even calculate how much the pressure would be on them. But they did win, and we'll see how far they go. They need to get to a Cup final, and as I said last week when we were previewing the playoffs, this is their best shot, I think, to get there. So we'll see what happens, and you still got Florida and Washington in the playoffs. I thought Montreal would, and all the games were close, so I'm not saying they weren't, but I thought Montreal would win at least one more game in that series against Montreal. Have won one more game in that series against Washington. They didn't.
Well, and as I say, Montreal has some talent now that they didn't really have. I mean, I think Suzuki's coming to his own. I love Gallagher. Gallagher's been a mainstay there.
Mainstay, like you just said, Gallagher, Suzuki. Lane Hudson, who should win the Rookie of the Year, tremendous player. Cole Caulfield, who's too undersized. He's too little. That's what. But the guy scored 37 goals. He had a terrific series against the Caps. Montreal's a team on the rise. They really are.
All right, now we got the NHL out of our system. The winless versus Celtics and Cavs are going to follow the Knicks, because I'm sure they're going to be the next 2 roadblocks. If the Knicks beat the Celtics, it's probably the Cavs next. Right? I mean, that's the logical thing to think. But, this is playoffs. Is it going to be a different animal, or is it sort of the similar kind of momentum Boston carries in from those?
Well, if Boston, who beat them 4 times in the regular season, and really, I know one game went to overtime, but really had control, if they raise their game, the Knicks have no chance. The Knicks' best hope is that the Celtics in their mind say, we beat these guys 4 games in the regular season, and they might catch them on an off night. Alex, the first game is important because the Celtics have been off for a week. So they could be a little rusty. They rely on that 3-point shooting, and if that night those 3-pointers are not going in, the Knicks can steal a game in Boston, Game 1. I don't think. And I know how the media loves to talk about the Garden and Celebrity Row, but really the Knicks and Rangers in these playoffs. Now we know the Rangers aren't in the playoffs this year. The Garden hasn't been the home court panacea for the Knicks. They lost 2 to Detroit. I mean, we can even go back a couple of years ago with the Rangers. They won those 2 games at Prudential Center. Nobody thought the inexperienced Devils would win at both games at the Garden. They did. And I don't know if the Garden home court advantage is as much as the media would like it.
You are so hitting on a thing I've talked about for years, which is everybody used to be afraid to come to the Garden. They used to be afraid to go to Yankee Stadium. They used to be afraid, to play here in New York. I don't know where we lost our bite along the way, but I feel like we have a little bit.
I think it's true. It really is. So,
Now,
go ahead.
10 years ago, by the way, speaking of sports and home field advantage, 10 years ago, the Mets went to the World Series. I might be having going to a watch party with Terry Collins. So anything you want me to ask him if I get to meet the man that led the Mets to the World Series 10 years ago?
Yeah, just ask him what's going on. Why these starting pitchers can't go more than 5 innings? And it's hurting Major League Baseball, and it's hurting the Mets right now. Obviously, they have a major injury with
The
AJ.
split with the Diamondbacks is inexcusable. Okay, especially the way they started out against the Diamondbacks to win the first two. They should have won one of the next two.
Well, again, yeah, you want to win 2 out of 3. You always do, and you really want to win 2 out of 3 in a series like against the Diamondbacks because head-to-head's a tiebreaker, and the National League is going to be very, very close. And as we said numerous times, there's going to be a playoff caliber National League team that's not going to make the playoffs. So, yeah, no, you want to win 2 out of 3 against the Diamondbacks. And they had their chances. And they, not so much yesterday, more on Tuesday night. They were 0 for 10 with runners on base and can't do that. But, I mean, if you said to me the Mets going to be 21-11, I would take that.
Should I ask him if Soto is like the Cespedes of 15? I mean, could he turn into that where he just becomes a monster midway through the year for this team or what?
You can ask him that, but I think he's going to tell you. As great as Cespedes was for us, and he was great, he's the only reason we got there. Juan Soto is a much better player. The one thing after this first month, and we'll revisit this every month, the American League is as bad as I thought it was going to be when the season started.
Yanks are 1.5 up, and they have only like 17 wins. I mean, it's a bit of a struggle. And look, to lose against the Orioles the way they did this week, they are missing pieces, and we knew that coming into the season, but we're seeing it now.
Yeah, and it's funny you talk about Baltimore, Alex. Here's a team that was on the come with all these young players. It seems like they're stuck in neutral. They didn't do anything in the offseason. They let Burns go to Arizona, and that's not good. So, I mean, what is their commitment to getting over the hump and beating the Yankees and beating the other teams in the American League? And let's face it, the American League's wide open. If the Orioles spend some money, they could get there. They could.
I mean, the Red Sox, I thought they were struggling to start the year. Now they're right in second place, and that's
but what are they? What are they, 17 and 16?
Yeah, exactly. It's
So how good are they?
And the West looks like, I mean, I guess the Astros are doing well, and Seattle, you can never count Seattle out. But the fact that the A's are like in the running here is very interesting to me because they're not usually in the running, So it's just
and don't get me wrong, the season still needs to formulate. We're only a month in, and we'll check again. Usually, another checkpoint will be Memorial Day weekend. But
with these 12, the way they've arranged it, we're only facing these guys 12 times a year. That's changed everything to me.
Oh, without question.
You need to have the pedal to the metal on every division. Even this weekend against the Rays, they have to win 2 out of 3. I mean, because in September, what happens in April is counting now, and that never used to be the case.
Well, look at the game on Sunday, 7-1 bomb the 6th inning. The Mets are beating the Washington. Yes, it's April 27th. But that loss that they should not, that's the game they shouldn't have lost. Come September 27th, and they're a game behind a playoff spot or a game out of first place. I know I'm going to remember April 27th when I had a 7-1 lead in the bottom of the 6th inning.
By the way, I noticed you picked up on my Sandy Koufax reference, speaking of baseball, and it's true. I mean, I feel like Jewish players should be honored a little bit more, and Sandy Koufax did take time away, which was unheard of at the time. Was that what it was too?
It was kind of unheard of at the time. Obviously, living in the East, we obviously know because of the large Jewish American population, we knew that about Yom Kippur. But it was the 1965 World Series, and he was scheduled to pitch on Yom Kippur, and there was a game on Yom Kippur, and he, being a very faithful and religious Jew, and I give him total credit for it. Said, I'm not pitching today. So that the Twins beat Drysdale, a Hall of Fame pitcher, and then they beat Koufax. They were down 2-0. They won the 2 games at Metropolitan Stadium in Minnesota. They went back to L.A., and then the great Dodger pitching got to them. They won the 3 games. Koufax won a game, and then Koufax, the Twins at Metropolitan Stadium won Game 6. I believe Bob Allison, and the Twins had a really good hitting team. Hit a home run. He made a great catch in that series. I don't think it was in that game, Bob Allison did. And on 2 days rest, the great, and Alex, I mean great, Sandy Koufax shut out the Twins 2-0 at the Metropolitan Stadium in Minnesota. And
what's the game that he threw that? Was it a no-hitter that he stood in front of the scoreboard at Dodger Stadium and pointed to it? There's a famous photograph with that. I think that was a little earlier.
Well, in 1965, he threw a perfect game against
perfect game.
He threw a no-hitter in 62 against the expansion Mets, the Mets' first month of existence. He threw another no-hitter in 63, another one in 64, and then he threw the perfect game in 65 against the Cubs. The interesting thing about that game is the Dodgers only got 1 hit in the game, and they won the game 1-0. The Dodgers got 1 run on 1 hit, and they didn't get that hit to the bottom of the 7th inning. Lou Johnson, I believe, got that base hit. He was an outfielder for the Dodgers. But that game is famous because the great Scully was calling the game as only he could. And if you listen to like the last couple of outs in the 9th inning, he chronicled, it's 9:42 in the city of the Angels. And he threw a curveball that's fouled away. 2-2 to Harvey Keene, a batting champion, manager of the Milwaukee Brewers team that went to the World Series in '82. He, one of the, look it up, Alex. Listen to the 9th inning of that game. And Koufax struck him out. And at 9:46, Pacific time, that's when it was complete. Famous game. Famous because there was only 1 hit in the entire game.
Amazing. Well, maybe I'll dig that call up and we can play it at some point and have our listeners have some reference to it. But speaking of announcers, yesterday, to end the show here, wow. Joe Micheletti retiring. The guy's a young guy. Did not expect this. You've been in my ear about this for a while now. To send them both out the door, it's very, very weird to me.
Well, he says that he's been thinking about it for 2 or 3 years, talking with his wife about it. I don't know if that's accurate or not accurate. He's an excellent color commentator. I mean, he's been with Madison Square Garden Network for 27 years, 8 years with the Islanders, and then they switched him over to the Rangers for the last 19.
I remember back in the day, I'm old enough to remember Howie Rose and Joe Micheletti. Okay, that's how long I go back.
Well, you go back. And I don't know if he was pushed out. I don't know if he did this on his own. I don't know if he thought in the middle of the season that he was going to retire and just kept it under wraps because he didn't want to take anything away from the Sam Rosen retirement tour. Maybe. I don't know. But I heard that MSG is trying to get younger guys in there. And I think I know I've told you off here, don't be surprised if you see a change with Butch Goring. I mean, I've heard that, and I've heard Butch is fighting back against it.
We'll have to see. By the way, we started with the Knicks, but they weren't the only winner this week. Shout out to our friend Frank Morano, and there's a reason why I'm mentioning this. Frank won the Staten Island Council District 51. So you know what I think we should all root for tomorrow in the Kentucky Derby? Sandman. Because if you've listened to the show, he opens up with Enter Sandman. Let's just go with Sandman. Maybe he's the favorite because Frank won Staten Island.
Why not? And congratulations to Frank. Obviously, he's our former coworker. He's a good man. He's going to do a good job for Staten Island. And I was very happy to see that election result go his way on Tuesday.
Well, I'm in studio, so I got to get the phone. But it was always great talking to Lou Terminello on Terminello's Take. We'll do this again next week, and we'll see where we are with the Knicks and Celtics. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Alex. Have a great day.